Okay, this is John Wallace. I'm doing FTE217 week 4 assignment. I have 5 parts to this assignment. Got to do the detailed disassembly, briefly demonstrate the cleaning, lubricating, and inspecting a fully disassembled firearm. Um, Explain how you educate a customer to spot and avoid ammunition-induced malfunctions. As a gunsmith, should you train your customer in proper shooting principles and describe why it's important to understand firearm and accessory operation prior to attaching any accessory to a firearm? I'm supposed to go over the immediate work area. Nothing, no ammunition of any sort. Um, the firearm in question is AR-10. No magazine in the well, no ammunition. Um, yep, that's it. Everything else is out of the way. I will go ahead and get this disassembled, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we've got it broken on down. Um, we'll go over the parts to clean and lube. Um, Quick check again since the camera broke. No ammo anywhere. All right. Um, ooh, there we go. Okay, so you're gonna want to inspect down in your trigger and by the hammer. Check for any crud, any dust, any dirt that might need to be cleaned out of there. I use a compressor and an air gun to blow a lot of crud out with a towel sitting over so it blows up into the towel. Make sure you've got it lubed after you've cleaned down in there. Um, you want to make sure your buffer, spring, and plunger are cleaned and lubed. Your bolt needs to definitely be thoroughly cleaned and lubed. Your firing pin needs to be very clean. As for lube, it's gonna have lube because it's part of the bolt. You know, as it goes down through the bolt's lubed, it's gonna have lube going through the channel. Um, the cam also needs to be cleaned and lubed. Um, Firing pin retaining pin doesn't necessarily need to be lubed. Make sure it's nice and clean. It's gonna have lube again because it's going through the side of the bolt carrier and holding that in place. Um, the firing, uh, the bolt carrier needs to also be cleaned and lubed inside and out. Um, the gas key needs to be cleaned, lubed, cleaned very well down in the gas key because that cruds up quite a bit. Um, the T handle needs a. I like to make sure there's a spot of lube down in here, but not too much, just a spot for that action right there. And needs to make sure it's cleaned up, lubed up. It's going to have some metal on metal action. Those are the parts that are the most important, are the metal on metal action parts. Um, yeah, down in the star chamber needs to be cleaned and lubed. We need to check up here where the T handle rides and clean out that area for the charging handle. Um, Around the uh, forward assist, need to get a little lube down in there for that action. Metal on metal, you can hear it. Um, the most important part I've always found to check is getting a pinky down in there and checking. I mean, look at that. I haven't even fired this thing, and it is still dirty in the star chamber. You cannot get a star chamber clean. Oop, beat my desk. But watch this. I guarantee. Look at that. Well, it doesn't really show on the camera, but there's visibly dirt on my finger. It's wild. But yeah, that's the lubrication points and cleaning points, major cleaning points and lubrication points of this rifle. Other points on the rifle you will check is obviously going to be the barrel's going to need to be cleaned and lubricated. Any points metal to metal, any points where a round is going to be like down the barrel, it's going to need a little bit of lubrication. It's going to help out. It'll also help keep the metals from rusting. Um, where they will on some of this aluminum, it's not going to rust, but it will keep parts from rusting. It doesn't hurt to put some lube down in the detent spring hole. Um, you can't really, I guess you can't really hit the one for the uh, rear pin, just the pivot pin, but that's all right. You want to get some down here in the retaining pin for the buffer spring and plunger. Um, right here, you want to get some on this spring and hinge pin because that needs to be. I've had them when I was in the army. I've had them stick, so they definitely need to be hinged, or not hinged, oiled at the hinge so they don't stick and they actually functionally open properly. All right, so I've gone over um, parts 1 and 2. And as for part 3, it's educating customers on ammunition-induced malfunctions. Um, and I would teach a customer to avoid ammo-induced malfunctions by some of the things I saw in the lecture um, on the non-mechanical malfunctions. It's on page 16 and talks about ammo being having a massive impact on cycling, especially in blowback systems. Um, I'd start by teaching customers what to look for. Check for dented case mounts, damaged rims, high primers, loose bullets, or cases that look out of spec. Um, the lecture mentions that under pressure or overpressured ammo can cause short stroking, failures to eject, or failures to feed. That's also on page 16. Um, gas guns can have ammo issues too. Um, the physics section on page 9 explains the contaminated powder or low charge weight will not build up enough pressure to cycle the action or push the projectile properly. After I explain this stuff to the customer, I would then move on to explain that um, case head failures and gas venting, yeah, toward the shooter, and parts breaking when ammo disrupts the physics of the gun can be a big issue. It's found on page 7. Any of this happening is going to injure somebody. So it's pertinent information for a customer to know. Um, number 4 is, or part 4 is, should a gunsmith teach customers grip and stance? Yeah, yeah. What I mean, if you know enough, I mean, not all gunsmiths are going to be shooters. So if they're not an avid shooter, they might not know grips and stance as well. But I can see how it would be important to know from a short stroking situation where you need to know if their grip is firm and how they're holding the firearm so that it doesn't just happen all the time and them keep coming to you and them not understanding what's going on. Well, teach them what they're doing wrong. Go to a range if you can, or if you have a range, do that, you know. But yeah, absolutely. Gunsmiths should teach basic shooting principles if they have the means and the understanding. The lecture on page 7 makes it clear that the operator technique can cause malfunctions. If someone does not shoulder the rifle firmly or they allow the gun to move too much during recoil, especially with a blowback system, they can cause short strokes. If I hand a gun back to a customer without explaining the basics, they might come back complaining about malfunctions that were actually their fault. Um, a few minutes of instructions can prevent uh, issues with the firearm and with the reliability and some kind of basic troubleshooting. And it also reduces liability of someone getting injured because they didn't inspect their ammo properly and something went catastrophically wrong with it. Part 5 is understanding firearm and accessory operations before installing anything. Um, Accessories change how the firearm behaves. The lecture, in the lecture, the section on accessories explains uh, this on page starting on page 15. Gas blocks affect how much pressure the system receives. If someone uses an adjustable gas block without knowing how to tune it, they can restrict gas too far and stop the gun from cycling. Buffers change timing and mass. Page 15 also explains that the wrong buffer can make the carrier move too slowly or move too quickly and even cause bolt bounce. Um, Suppressors increase back pressure, and the lecture on page 16 says you may need a heavier buffer or to adjust the gas block to keep the rifle from being overgassed. Even optics matter. If someone doesn't understand eye relief or mount height, they will think the gun or optic is broken. Um, so yeah, knowing how the firearm works and how accessories change the system is, you know, to me, it's damn necessary to know before mounting anything on it. You don't just want to mount and go about it all willy nilly and have an unbalanced rifle.